All right, so this is our review of Astra, a new movie starring Brad Pitt. We are going to get Mark's initial thoughts on that.
Before we went into the theater, we were talking about how well received this movie had been already. Today is in our area, the first showings. And everyone was raving about it and how good it was. And I'm going to try to articulate why I believe that is. And this isn't my opinion just yet. This movie kind of, from the trailers, if that's all you have to go on, it seems like it's going to be an action movie. One that involves being in space. Then in one of the trailers, you see them getting chased, and there's a gun battle. There's in one of the trailers, you see two astronauts on what appears to be a structure that's in space, and you see an explosion. So, from what I gathered anyway, is this was some kind of adventure going on in space, and our protagonist, our main character, he is involved either indirectly or directly, but he's in the middle of all of this. However, that is not the kind of movie this is. This is a drama, and it's kind of a psychological thriller, more so an action thriller. There's a lot to be said about the movie, and the movie has a lot to say. There's a very deep message in this movie. There are probably 2 or 3 themes that the movie delves into, and by the end of it, and to be honest with you, you do have to get to the end. The movie is 2 hours long, but it probably felt like it was 2 hours and 20 minutes long, maybe even 2.5 hours. But the payoff at the end, I think, is what makes the movie so good for those who have been raving about it. The cinematography is excellent. The acting is excellent, but what would you expect from Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones? There are other ancillary characters who are there to provide the story, to fill in some gaps as far as why things are happening, and they service the movie just fine. So, the script of the movie, there's narration by the main character, and his name is Roy McBride. He's talking a lot over the movie, not necessarily narrating what's happening, but his thought process as things are happening. And even in his narration, that message that the movie is trying to tell or trying to give comes through. So the script is very good. Cinematography is excellent. It's very beautiful. It's a great visually appealing movie. And again, the end pays off once you do get there. Now, how I feel about the movie. And it's probably not as bad as you think, given usually there's a stark contrast between a description like that and then, oh, now it's my turn to talk. I enjoyed it. It was good. However, there were a lot of red herrings in this movie. Okay. And I didn't understand why. For example, the psychological test.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the space program. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe they developed that into a thing in the future. But they made a big deal out of this psychological test. And it seemed so ominous that I felt like whoever this voice was some villainous character.
Oh, okay. You thought that was setting up something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought like they were setting
Kind of
him up.
like in the movie Oblivion.
Yes, exactly
Okay,
like
yeah.
that. So I was very suspicious of this test because he took it 3 or 4 times, and every time he passed it except for once. And there was a moment in there where you said, "Oh, I think that was he
a
failed
failure.
it." It was. I agreed with you,
Yeah.
actually, but I felt as though it was a kind of a bait and switch kind of thing. It was so obvious,
Yeah.
a different answer that he's been giving,
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, of course it's going to be a failure.
Yeah.
And then they didn't fail him for it.
Yeah.
So like I don't understand what. And then I thought, okay, well, that must mean that this test isn't really a test.
Yeah.
It's just to keep him on the road to whatever they want him to do. And I got the sense, and he says it in the movie, Roy does, he says they're using me. And I was like, yeah, it kind of feels like they just want you in space.
Yeah.
But we don't know why. But they kind of tell us why when we're on Mars, and the director of operations says that you need to get to this space station on Neptune and destroy it. And I'm just thinking, everyone on Earth who sent him on this mission, we don't hear from them again, actually. But it felt like there was an ulterior motive behind why they wanted him there.
Well, there was, and I think that was explained.
And it was, but again, the director of operations on Mars.
Was that the black woman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that was her title. I missed that part.
Was she black?
The one with the short hair?
Yeah.
I think she looked black.
She was probably mixed.
Yeah, well, yeah, I just call that black.
Fair enough.
Racist.
We're cutting all that out. So she says that because of the events that took place on Project Lima, the project is being headed by Roy's dad.
Before we go too far into that, I want to talk about the psychological evaluation really quick, because I don't want to get too far off of it and have it not be relevant. But so you were talking about how that there was that one part that I thought should have been a failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the time where he does fail it, like, didn't seem like it should have been a failure. Like, and well, okay, no, that's not what I'm saying. I guess I should have let you finish, maybe. But like, I didn't think that the time he failed it made sense thematically for the movie, because they were trying to rush him back to Earth because they were trying to get rid of him, and it seemed like they should have rigged that to be like, I don't care what you're saying, you need to leave, so we're gonna make you pass this thing. So that was like the timing of the one that he passed that it seemed like he shouldn't have passed, and the one that he failed seemed like he shouldn't have failed. It was just, they were both weird to me.
The one that he failed happened right after he gets to Mars, and the reason that they want him on Mars is to deliver a message to Project Lima, to his dad, so that they can establish contact and try to figure out what's going on and determine if he's still alive, so that they can again figure out why things are happening on that station and why those things are affecting Earth, and it needs to stop. So they ask him to deliver this prepared message that they're going to laser signal out to Neptune for this space station on Neptune, or orbiting Neptune. Well, after 2 or 3 attempts of reading this prepared note and receiving no answer back, Roy goes off script, delivers an emotional plea to his father saying, hey, let us know what's going on. At that moment, his vitals change. They make a big deal out of his resting heartbeat, his breathing, and all of that. Well, everything elevates when he delivers this personalized off-script message. And this is another thing that I didn't understand. Those 3 people recording the message and sending it, they look at the monitor, they notice that, his vitals are all off. Then they try to rush him back to Earth. I'm like,
Oh, is
why?
that what happened?
Yeah, that's why they did that.
I thought they got a message back.
If they did get a message back, the movie didn't overtly say that that's what happened.
I mean, they had him react and say like, "Oh, I think my dad said something to you."
Then,
And I assumed that he was just correct in that assumption because there was like they were looking at, and so I think the way I interpreted that seems to be different than the way you interpreted it, because what I saw was this is what I saw from Brad Pitt's perspective, or Roy's perspective, is he's in the room, he delivers this emotional message, and then there's like a little passage of time, a short period of time it looked like, and then you see them looking at stuff, and then you see they send that woman in, and she tells him he needs to go back to Earth. So what I thought happened is that they received a message, and then they were like, okay, we need to tell him that there's some urgent business going on with his body, that we need to get him back to Earth. Because they also said, like, your personal connection has made you unfit to participate in this any further. And so I thought the point of that was that they just needed, because what they were saying is they wanted to get a location on his dad, by getting a signal back from him. So I think they got the message. It didn't really matter what the message was because they found the location. And then they were like, okay, we don't need him anymore. We need to get him out of here so we can go blow this place up.
So are you saying then that,
like, the vital signs were like an excuse?
had he not delivered that personalized message but still got a response from the prepared note, it would have worked out the same way?
Yeah. I don't think it had anything to do. I think the message being personalized is what got his dad to respond, but I don't think that had anything to do with with their decision to send him home. I think that just happened to be the thing that worked, and then once it worked, they didn't need it anymore.
So that again just creates more confusion, because now I guess it was too subtle, because that's the crux of him going.
What do you mean?
So the director of operations says that there was a mutiny on Project Lima,
Mm-hmm.
and Roy's dad essentially murdered the entire crew. So instead of NASA, or whatever NASA's called in this future of the movie, they don't report what happened back to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
They just say that they turn Roy's dad into a hero, someone who has traveled further into space than anyone else. So to cover up what he did, they want to find him,
Mm-hmm.
and then destroy every piece of evidence that he existed, so that if he ever decides to come back, he can't tell this story. So I guess that's a reason enough for them to rush him out and back to Earth. But I think us learning that was rushed. So there are a lot of loose ends, and I guess it doesn't matter, but the director of operations was told that she doesn't have a high enough clearance level to visit this section of the base, and that's where they were going to send the message. Well, after he delivers the personalized message and they tell him to leave,
Mm-hmm.
as they're escorting him out, she walks by him. Not only that, but the crew members of the ship he was on, who didn't know why he was there,
Mm-hmm.
walk by him.
Gotcha.
So maybe that didn't represent the same part
Maybe he
of
was
the
in
ship,
a different part of the building.
but they walked out of that room.
Gotcha.
The next scene was them walking down the hallway. And then these people come by. And not only that, they ignore him, as if they knew what just happened in that room.
That is weird.
and weren't going to say anything to him. So that again put me on edge. Like, what is this exercise
Gotcha.
that's going on? And as far as the big picture, about as far as the movie, maybe it doesn't matter, but there are a few things like that in this movie that bothered me. And it's like, why are you doing that? And then by the end of the movie, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because all of that just happened. So, here's another one. The space pirates.
Okay, I'm so glad we're talking about the space pirates.
I don't understand why those were a thing. Like they brought them up. I understand that they exist, but they attacked him, killed everybody. Brad Pitt's the only survivor, and then they get shot down.
So I really want to talk about that because I was kind of hesitant about this movie. I kind of brought this movie up on a whim just because I saw the trailer and I was like, why not? Let's watch this movie. But as we were settling in, the space pirates happened maybe 10 minutes into the movie. It was pretty quick, 10-15 minutes. And because the movie started really quickly, actually.
I want to get to that too, but go ahead.
Okay, so what I really liked is when I saw the space pirates, I was like, never in my life did I think I would ever be able to use the word moon pirate. Like, it was so interesting to me that I literally was watching a movie all of a sudden with moon pirates in it. Like, they literally were like, oh, this could be piracy. And I was like, what? That is so cool. And so then I was on board fully with this movie at that point. And then the movie didn't play out at all throughout the rest of the movie. So the type of movie I thought that this was, like, I thought that part was setting the tone for the movie. And it did not at all. It wasn't really, I wouldn't know if I would call it a red herring, but it kind of was. Like, I was so excited because I was like, wow, this movie is really interesting. And then there's another part that happens where I'm like, still not really sure. And this was my biggest problem with the movie, is I knew the movie was like about his dad and him going on, like some mystery involving his dad. But for too much of the movie, I was sitting there wondering, what is this movie about?
Right.
Like, I thought that for up until, like, probably the last 10, 15 minutes of the movie. I was like, I don't know what this movie... Well, maybe not. Whenever he met his dad, I was like, okay, I kind of know what's going on. But that was something that bothered me. I wanted, like, the point of the movie to be established and then for me to be able to watch it, as opposed to just me waiting for them to explain it at the very, very end. I think that was my biggest problem with it.
So, I'm going to say this one piece and then go back to the beginning of the movie. During the narration is where the pieces of what the movie was about came together for me. Also, I read a headline, and I wish that I hadn't, and maybe I'd be just as confused in that area as you. But there was a headline that said Brad Pitt delves deep into masculinity and something else in Ad Astra. So
why? Because he was sad and he talked about it.
Like, probably.
Is that where we are in society, that a man can't do that? Like,
so he compartmentalized all of his emotions.
Yeah.
He suppressed. He was oppressed. I was gonna say repressed. That's not it either. That's when it's unintentional.
Yeah.
He suppressed all these bad feelings that he had about his dad, and how he was raised, and how that affected how he grew up, and the relationships that he had.
Yeah.
Whether it was romantically or professionally. And you could tell that it did have an effect on his life. But during all the psychological evaluations, he kind of put that aside and just focused on the mission. So the theme of the movie was slowly rolling toward the end, and then at the end you get the actual explanation.
Yeah.
However, so let me go back to how quick this movie is, and more of these little details that were just put in there just to give the movie something to do. The old guy, his dad's friend.
Yeah.
From the moment he came on screen, I thought to myself, he looks too fragile for space travel.
Right? I was like, he's gonna die.
And I don't mean the actor.
Yeah.
I mean the character.
The character they made, yeah.
He was old. He looked tired. And he didn't look like he was even emotionally into doing whatever it is they were going to be doing. And then that pays off when they get to the moon and he has a heart attack or something.
Okay, so remember how I leaned over and I was like, "Is this funny to you?"
That was me being annoyed at it. It's like, no, this isn't funny. I saw this coming, so why is he in the movie?
It wasn't. The reason that it was funny to me is because it was just the way that the line was delivered, where the woman over the microphone is like, "You're having some heart issues. I suggest you get that checked out." And it's like, well, yeah, like,
and that's why it annoyed me. You put that line in there to justify what you've done to this guy. That didn't entertain me at all. Like, that wasn't justified. He was in this movie for 7 minutes, and he gave him a flash drive. And I'm like, what?
I thought it was so funny.
I was so angry. Okay.
But, so, and I'm not sure if you were getting into this, but, like, we were just talking about how, so, the weird thing about this movie is, like you were saying, we kind of thought it was like a space adventure action movie, and it really turned into this, like, super deep, like, intense therapy session that lasted a long time, and it felt to me like, obviously this is not what it was, but, like, it almost felt to me like finding his dad was this therapeutic exercise for him that he needed to do for his, like, growth as a human being, and then he was able to, like, the whole like, all of NASA is just like a really super advanced future therapy, and all they did was send him there on this mission so that he could overcome his problems. And what I thought was interesting, and I think what saved the movie for me, honestly, is the psych evaluation. And this is why I'll say that. At the very beginning, he's talking about, and I'm sure you caught this, but, like, because you kind of just mentioned it, but at the very beginning, he's talking about how he's focused on the mission, he's focused on what matters, is what he says, and that's to be implied that that's space and spaceships and rockets. Mm-hmm. And so, and at the very end, the very last line, he says the exact same thing almost. He's like, I'm focused on the most important thing, and that's it. And it's his wife, or his ex-wife, or whatever, who they keep kind of cutting to. Right. And it shows throughout the movie that she is not what is the most important, and that's what he is, his distraction that he's trying to not focus on. And you see him at the end realize that is what his focus needs to be, and he's able to move past his issues with his dad and stuff like that because of the events that happened in the movie. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I love they even mentioned musicals in this, but I love reprises. So I like the fact that they kind of, like, reprised that line and made it mean something better at the end. But yeah, like I said, that kind of saved the movie for me because I was kind of, like, not understanding what any of this was about. And, like, the whole journey with his dad, like, so the movie opens up with him talking about this mystery woman that he doesn't really explain the situation with. But you know going into it that the movie's about his dad. And so I was like, wait, what is this movie about? Because is it about his relationship with his wife that we're going to learn more about? Or is it about his relationship with his dad that's rocky and all of this stuff? And I guess both was the answer. Or it was about how he needed to get past the stuff with his dad to have relationships with other people. But still, it was like, the way they teased everything going on with her made me think that they were going to talk more about that than they did. And so that kind of bothered me because I was looking to get a little bit more on that. But I guess that last part at the end was supposed to be enough to show that he has his mind on the right track now or something. I don't know.
So, again, there are several themes that this movie addresses. And I'll get to what you were just talking about. But I also want to go back to the beginning when they first get to the moon. In this future, the moon is a tourist attraction.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when one of the
I thought that was just a really big moon base.
one of the generals says you'll be flying commercial to the moon.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what
Gotcha.
And then he asks for a pillow and they charge him like
oh, that's okay.
$125.
I'm glad that you said that because I was like, is this how they treat your NASA people?
Right.
But I was like, I didn't realize he was just on like a vacation. Yeah. Okay, well he wasn't, but yeah, I didn't get that at all.
And when he gets to the moon, and
that's kind of cheeky and funny now.
He's narrating, and he says to himself, to the audience, that the moon is actually a disgrace at this point. And if his dad had seen
that's
it,
what he was talking. That makes sense now
because we built everything on the moon that we've been running away from on Earth.
That's funny. I didn't catch that at all.
And I thought that was very poignant.
Oh, so like when he said that, because like I don't know why it didn't register to me that they were on the moon, because I thought he was just talking about people in general, because I saw a guy just kind of like hanging out and just like chilling on a skateboard or something, whatever. And I was like, where are they? Because I thought he was just making a point about humanity and stuff. I didn't know he was talking about the moon and how they turned it into trash. That's super interesting. Okay.
So yeah, I really like that. So another one of the themes, and this is towards the end of the movie, is when he's talking about going to finally find his dad and what he's going to do once he does finally get there. And this is after the monkeys attack that other satellite that they stop over on. He's describing that incident, and he relates it to his dad and his experience with his dad. And he said he sees in those monkeys anger and violence. And then he says, I've seen that anger in my father. I see that anger in myself. But when I push that anger aside, I still only see hurt. So, yes, there's a lot of emotion that he's just bottled up.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that bottle, he's still trying to push down even more emotion. And at that point, you can kind of see him breaking. And it's just, how much can he take? You know, he's has been through a lot in his life that's taken a toll on him personally. And, you know, what's next? What's going to happen to this man and to his psyche? And that wraps up when he does meet his dad, and he gets him off of the ship, off of Project Lima, and they're headed back. But he also goes into, I think this might be the overarching theme, and that is, he says that his dad had compiled much more research than anyone has ever compiled in history. And what he found was amazing. It was beautiful. It was nothing that anyone had ever seen. But underneath all of it, there was nothing. Under all of the stars, all the other planets that he saw, the sounds that he found, his dad was only able to see that there was nothing there, because he was looking for intelligent life.
Mm-hmm.
So in his vast discoveries, he didn't find intelligent life, therefore he didn't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
So his dad had this one track mind. He had this one mission, and he failed it, and that's what he thought.
Mm-hmm.
He thought because he didn't find life, he wasted his entire life going to Neptune and spending 30 years there.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad Pitt kind of went against that and said, I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
And he says to his dad, you didn't fail. You've collected all of this data, and the answer is, we're all that we've got.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was talking to
about humanity.
Okay. Right? Like, yeah, it's okay to want to know more, but at the end of the day, we're still the human race, and we have to look out for each other first and foremost. And when we don't, things like what we went through, murdering people for our goal, because that's what happened. They both went through this
They both
exact
did the same
experience.
thing. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't like that parallel. I didn't like what he had to do and why he did it, but I know why the movie chose to do that, but it bothered me.
I didn't like it either.
Okay, gotcha. Because I, like, when that happened, I was like, isn't this whole movie, like, so what I thought when that happened is I was like, am I about to watch him turn into his dad, which is what he doesn't want to happen? I was like, I don't want to watch that. That's not what I came here for. And so that kind of bothered me. It's not really what ended up happening, but that's where I thought they were going with it. I didn't like it one bit.
I did too. And right as that was happening, you could see his face in the reflection of the window, and I was like, is he gonna age all of a sudden? Are they trying to show,
I didn't think that was gonna happen.
I thought it was gonna be kind of like Mufasa,
Simba,
like
seeing
in the
him.
water,
Yeah. But yeah, so I want to talk about the dad really quick, because so you know how when we watched Ready or Not, and you were saying that the way you saw that movie was like Alex's family against Grace, Alex and his family against Grace, and that's the movie you were watching. And if it had ended up with them being happy, then that would have not been the movie you would have been watching. Right. Well, so that's how I felt about this movie, and it didn't really happen this way, but like what I was thinking, the movie I was watching, kind of from a prediction that I had about how the movie was going to go, and that prediction seemed to be confirmed when we found out about the mutiny, and we found out about the fact that his dad killed his crew, including the innocent ones of his crew, in order to go on this like kind of insane mission that had kind of taken over his mind. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of how I thought this movie was going to go. And so when we get to meeting his dad, even it reinforces it more, because his dad says, I didn't care about you or your mom. I left you on purpose, and I knew what the consequences of that were going to be, and sorry.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, okay, that's almost exactly what I expected you to say. Like, except like less blunt, but I assumed it was going to be something unpleasant like this. And so then when it turns into him still trying, it's not that he tried to rescue him that I had a problem with, but him still treating him as though they were like in this together and stuff like that. And when he says we're all we've got, I didn't make the human race parallel, and so if I had caught that would have made me feel a lot better about him saying that. But I was thinking, are you seriously still this deluded that you think this guy actually, and I wanted to ask you this too, is how much of what his dad said to you do you think was just the crazy from being alone for so long, and how much of it was just actually the truth?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think it turned into truth because he was out there for so long, because he had dedicated basically himself to this work. It became the truth. Like, I have to do this.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, he even said, he acknowledged like his thought process before he left too. He said, like, I knew this was gonna orphan you, I knew this was gonna widow your mom. So I mean, he talked about how he felt before he even did it.
That could have been the case, or he could be retroactively applying that logic.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Because he could be saying, like, I thought about these things, and I guess back on Earth, when it happened, I wasn't thinking about it so cruelly as I am now.
He wasn't thinking about it at all. But to make himself feel better.
Gotcha.
To make himself...
Well, no, I guess my point was, like, yeah, like you said, like, he probably didn't actively think that. But, like, when you go away for several years and you know you're going to be gone for a long time and you know your dog's at home, it's like, you know that dog's not going to see you or be taken care of, but like you don't care because you have this thing that you have to do. Like, I guess my point is, like, he did know, it's just like he probably wasn't like actively thinking it the way that he said it.
I don't think that I believe that he, yes, understood he was going to be away for a while, but I don't know if when he left, he knew that his mind would be the way that it... I don't believe that that person that we met at the end of the movie is the same person who left Earth.
No, yeah, absolutely not. No, I wasn't saying that at all. I guess my point...
At all, like, none of it.
No, I understand that. Like, I mean, I guess to me, yeah, okay, maybe we saw it differently. I just thought his delivery of that message wouldn't have come across the same way.
I don't think he would have delivered the message, is what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying, like, it might not... Yeah, he might not have delivered the message at all, but I think that the message was still true.
That's what I mean.
Gotcha.
I don't believe it was true.
Gotcha. I think it was true.
Gotcha.
That was the impression that I got from him. Not necessarily, like, to go so far as to say, I don't care about you, or never did care about you, but I think I think, like, the one line of, like, I knew the ramifications of this when I did it, and I did it anyways. That's what I think is true.
But what I think what we are differing on is the definition of those ramifications. The ramifications that I believe you're talking about is him understanding that one day he might have to kill all these people.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about at all. I just meant abandoning his mom and his son.
Okay.
That's all I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
Like, oh yeah, the mutiny...
Because he goes full nuts.
Going full crazy is not what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
I'm saying, like, the ramifications of, like, I understood that I was abandoning my family.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah. No, when I asked you, like, how much of that was the truth, all I was talking about was his relationship with his son.
Fair enough. So yeah, I do believe that when he left Earth, he understood that this may be a one-way trip.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah, because
he says that to his son, too.
So that part I do believe was true all the way. By the end of the movie,
Oh wait, but no, I didn't finish though. Like, so I guess my point was, like, how, you know how he was still kind of trying to get him out of there, and he was like, he would say, like, oh, we're all we've got, and then the dad was like, oh, we could have been this great team, and, like, I should have had you as my partner, and blah blah blah. And I was like, no. Like, literally, like, you know when you texted me earlier and said no about that gibberish? Yeah. Like, that's how I felt about that scene. I was like, no, you guys aren't friends, you don't like each other, like, this is a bad person. I know that he's crazy because he's been in space by himself for a long time, but no, you guys aren't going back to Earth together and, like, living your life. So that's what I was, like, just not about to watch, because that was literally not the movie that I had watched for 2 hours. But that didn't happen, and it was fine, but it looked like it was going to happen, and I was like, no, that can't be how this movie is. You can't get ice cream. That was the one time I've ever actually thought that.
So I'm gonna disagree with you.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Hear me out. You talked about the delusion. His dad, for all of his faults, still believed he was doing good work. Now, it was probably self-serving work, and he even admits that, but he was still on this mission of pure discovery. He wanted to keep searching until he found this other intelligent life. From that perspective, in a vacuum, I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with him wanting to keep going. Because it doesn't matter what he finds. No, it doesn't matter whether or not he finds it. But he's been on this journey for 30 years. He's at Neptune. How much further can he go? I'm all in a vacuum. I'm all for that. So that's really where his mind is. He's not thinking about the people he murdered. He's not thinking about the negative effect he had on his son or his wife. But what he does see is a person who is most like him, and even says it in the movie. He also made it all the way to Neptune for the sole purpose of completing a particular mission. So in his head, he sees the same person. And with that will and that resilience, the two of them together can go on and discover more. Again, in a vacuum, I'm okay with that too. Now, let's talk about Roy and his desire to bring this person back to Earth. He's an astronaut. So, yes, if there's someone out in space who needs rescuing, that's what he's going to do. Now, there's a lot of information, there are a lot of facts that come to light that kind of say, he doesn't deserve to be rescued. He murdered a bunch of people. He's sending these shockwaves to Earth, and it's destroying everything.
That's so funny the way you said that. Because, like, it's just killing a bunch of people.
These are just things that happen, and we're gonna blame it on him. But two things. One, he's not doing that on purpose. During the mutiny, they destroyed part of the ship, and he's been trying to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know that it's causing these negative effects on Earth.
Okay, I think we're getting a little off track, because I want to clarify the problem that I had with it, because I think you think it's something different than what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem at all with what you said about his dad thinking like, oh, we need to go finish this mission. We need to go do this together. I accept fully that his dad was full on crazy, and that everything that was going on in his head was going to be crazy, and it's fine. And I accept that Roy was an astronaut and needed to save this person regardless of who he was, needed to bring this person back home on this mission that he just went to rescue him. Well, that's not really what he went there for, but like, so that's not the problem at all. But judging from what I was saying about how this movie was just a long psychological adventure, like therapeutic adventure for Roy, that's the way that I was watching this movie anyways. And clearly he had to like face these demons that he had with his dad, and clearly there was like unresolved things to be dealt with involving his relationship with his dad. I just didn't want to see his dad's relationship get mended. I just didn't think that was an appropriate part of the movie, and I didn't think that, so even if he had rescued his dad and they got back to Earth together or whatever, like, I didn't want to see them being buddies and like that having been the actual conclusion of the movie from a storytelling perspective. I thought that would have been a weak way to end that movie, and I think the way that they ended it was perfect, with him understanding that he needed to let go of all of the stuff with his dad so that he could actually have a real relationship with his wife. And so that's why I'm glad that it ended properly, because I would have just found it to be inappropriate if they allowed the movie to remain about Roy and his dad instead of him being able to move on.
In classic you fashion, you interrupt me before I'm done. I did not misunderstand anything you were talking about. And at the end of what I was going to say wasn't going to be anything that you were going to disagree with. I just wanted to take you through why Roy, in his emotional state, and what his mind, what his thought process was for the actions that he took. But in the way that you just described it, it seems a little cliche that there's this weight that's holding him back from enjoying life, and he literally lets it go when he unhooks it.
Yeah. That's what they did.
That's what they did. But I don't necessarily have a problem with that either. So actually, that kind of makes it cheesy now.
Oh, did you not see it that way at first?
No, I did, but I didn't really think about it.
Gotcha.
Because I was focusing on what he was saying and not necessarily the literal representation, visual representation of letting go of your problems. He literally let him go. He literally let it go of his problems.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I mean, I didn't take it that literally either.
He literally did.
No, that's what happened. That's what they did.
Yeah.
I didn't see that, but it doesn't really bother me that much. It was this little cute thing they were trying to do, and it's fine. Like, I don't like it. I don't hate it. But I guess my point is, like, you can't get ice cream, and I just didn't want to see that in this movie, and I'm glad that I didn't have to.
I actually, not necessarily that I wanted their relationship to be better, because I think it did get mended in the time that they spent together.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's fine. It had nothing to... I guess it wasn't about, like, whether it was mended or not. I guess all I didn't want was Roy to continue living his life basing it around his dad. And I think he was able to finally stop doing that when he got back. That's all I wanted.
I want to finish a thought before you misinterpret what I'm saying. That's a misunderstanding of what you're saying.
No, I didn't think you misunderstood anything just now. I was just clarifying.
Because you thought I misunderstood it.
Oh,
That's
my
the
gosh.
only reason you clarify something.
Oh my god.
I don't think I would have minded if they both made it back to Earth. Because if they did make it back to Earth, I expected them to both go to jail.
Brad Pitt needs to go to jail?
He murdered 3 people.
That was an accident.
So
he didn't really kill them. They just kind of died in the scuffle.
Hold on. No, he murdered one of them. And then the other two died.
No, she fell into...
No, the one he stabbed.
Because the guy was trying to stab him.
Yeah.
The guy came at him with a knife.
Yeah.
That was self-defense.
But he didn't come at him with a knife just for no reason.
Just because he boarded the ship, he wasn't supposed to be there.
He was a hostile threat and to take him out.
Yeah, but he wasn't, though. So, like, it was self-defense. Like, they thought he was a hostile threat, but he wasn't. He wasn't about to do anything to them.
That's not...
Until they attacked him.
That's not how that works. You don't get to decide, oh, I'm being told you're a hostile threat by my superiors who know better. I'm just gonna, oh, you're not a hostile threat? Okay.
No, I know. I'm saying they were acting on their orders. They were completely... It was fine what they were doing, but, like, you shouldn't, like, say that he's this murderer who needs to go to jail because he was defending himself against people who tried to kill him.
And after that scene, he describes what just happened. He said, I boarded the ship. I didn't have hostile intent, but unfortunately, all the crew is deceased.
Yes.
And then he says, the flight record will tell the story, and history will have to decide.
Yeah.
And it's basically, he's saying what we're arguing about right now.
Yeah.
When you guys see this, and you understand what happened, when I get back, we'll have to deal with it.
Yeah. And all I'm saying is, I say not guilty.
And what I'm saying is guilty. Because that's exactly how they're treating his dad.
That's not the same thing. Like, I understand the parallel between what he did.
We don't know what exactly happened.
Well, the dad said, I killed the innocent and the guilty.
Right.
He like straight up said that in his message.
But he also said there was a mutiny and I had to take action.
Yeah, but he said there was a mutiny and they wanted to go back to Earth and we needed to complete the mission. They didn't need to complete the mission. He could have sat down and let them go back to Earth. Like, I guess that's all I'm saying. Is he killed a bunch of innocent people for no reason.
He was the leader of that.
I don't know. I just think that those two situations were completely different.
You don't get to be like, oh, I'm tired of this job. I quit. Let me go back home. Turn the bus around, please.
No, all I'm saying is, like, I don't know if it's, like, in a captain's duties, and it clearly seemed like it wasn't, judging from that girl's reaction, although her parents died in it. But, like, I don't think that, like, upholding the mission in a NASA's, like, if you're, like, I don't know if NASA's protocol is kill half your crew if they want to go home.
No. That was also self-defense. They tried to take him out so that they could go home. He retaliated in self-defense.
I don't know. Were they trying to kill him,
Yes. That's what he said.
Oh, gotcha. I didn't know that.
No, he didn't just decide, they weren't having a discussion and he shot all of them.
No, I thought they were trying to take over the ship. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they were trying to kill him necessarily. They could have tried to detain him or put him in a room or something.
But he thought there was a physical threat upon himself. So he defended himself just like your boy did.
No, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if he needed... I think, to me, the way I interpreted that, and maybe I just interpreted it wrong, I didn't know that Tommy Lee Jones interpreted what was happening as them trying to kill him. I thought he interpreted that as they're trying to stop the mission. I don't want to stop the mission, so I'm going to kill a bunch of them. That's how I read that.
How are they going to stop the mission?
By taking control of the ship.
They
could have tied him up.
Again, if he perceived a physical threat to himself.
Yeah, but I to me, though, I didn't think it was about the preservation of his life to him. I thought it was about the preservation of finding human life or alien life. And I thought because he hadn't done that, that was his driving force. I thought that was the clear message of what... Like, I understand what you're saying, that, like, they had to do that by force to take the ship back. But, like, I guess my point is, his entire character arc depended on the fact that he had been consumed by this mission and completing this mission, and that was all he cared about, to the, like, detriment of everyone else, and, like, completely throwing rationality out of the window. And I don't know, I guess I assumed that his crew was being totally reasonable and wanting to go back to Earth. He just didn't want to let them, and so then they decided to take it upon themselves to rectify that situation. That was how I read that. So maybe I read that wrong.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but there's a step in there that you're missing. It's, yes, they're going to stop the mission, but he's not going to let them stop the mission. And that could just be like, hey, let's go home, and he says no. Hey, let's go home. He says no. I don't want to go home. We have a mission to complete. Then they try to physically detain him and say, hey, we're going to put you in this room now. Don't struggle, because there's a bunch of us and there's one of you. And then he's like, oh, no, I need to use physical force to stop you, because that's what you're doing to me. So not only is there a perceived physical threat to him, but there's also a threat to the mission. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but if he needs to retaliate and stop them from stopping the mission, and he has to do it physically, then that's what he's going to do, and that's what he did.
I don't think, though, that in order to defend his life, he needed to kill all of those innocent people.
He did.
Like, I don't think that like...
Stop.
No, but you're saying that him trying to defend the mission justifies what he did.
To him it did. In the movie.
Yeah, and I'm saying guilty on that.
And I'm saying that we're literally talking about the lie that I just said. The flight record will tell you the story, and history will have to decide.
And I'm saying guilty on that, not guilty on Brad Pitt.
They're both guilty.
No, because what Brad Pitt was trying to do was trying to stop these surges. He was trying to, like, save everybody. Old boy was just trying to find human life because he had gone crazy. Brad Pitt wasn't crazy
Here-
yet. He was trying to save people.
Here's the problem. I guess we're looking at it from different perspectives. You're looking at it from Brad Pitt's or Roy's perspective. I'm looking at it from the crew's perspective. The crew are receiving an alarm that there's a breach in their ship, jeopardizing their mission of getting back to wherever they're going. They are told from mission control that there's a threat on your ship.
Yeah.
You need to eliminate
Oh
it.
yeah, I'm saying not guilty on everyone on the ship. None of them were in the wrong, at all. That's what I'm saying.
Fine.
Like, they were. I'm just saying.
We're not going to agree on this. So let's just move on. And I hope somebody can clear this up. Because we are not ethicists.
That's awesome. Okay, but anyways, yeah, I don't know. I just thought, I guess none of that matters. Just to me, all I'm glad about is the fact that Brad Pitt got to live his life, Roy got to live his life with his wife, and he conquered his daddy issues. That was what I was happy about, and I'm glad that the movie went there instead of making it about him becoming best friends with his dad through this spectacular adventure.
Also, I don't, and this is kind of where I was going before we got into that debate. I don't necessarily believe that if both of them got back to Earth, they're going to go to the extreme that you're talking about, that they're buddy-buddy.
No, and that's fine too. If they, like what I'm saying, like his dad could have survived it, and I would have been fine with it as long as if he had still come to the realization that he needed to spend his like energy on his wife and other important things. It was like I said, I'm just glad that his psychological therapeutic journey was complete, and the completion of that was getting over the stuff with his dad.
Fair enough.
But yeah, overall I did like it. Like I said, I went into it like not knowing really what to expect, and I like you were kind of like used a good word with the red herrings, but like I don't even know if they were red herrings or if the movie just was trying to do a bunch of weird stuff. But like there were multiple scenes where I got the tone of the movie all wrong and didn't know what I was watching, and that was the moon pirate scene, which still I love the word moon pirate. I'm so glad I get to say that now. And the monkey scene, I was like, okay, I don't know what kind of movie this is. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, they're all of a sudden they're on this ship and there are like mutant monkeys attacking people, and they were like, oh yeah, this ship is for. But when they were going to that Mayday call, they're like, oh, that ship was for animal observation or something like that.
Biomedical.
Yeah, and I was like, why does that need to be done this far out in space though? Like, why are they doing that? Why did they really, really want to put Rafiki in here? Like, I didn't really get it.
It literally looked like live action Rafiki.
It did. Like, I think if that Lion King movie hadn't just come out, I might not have thought that. It might have just been a regular Bamboo. But like, I saw Rafiki in that movie.
Regular what?
Is that Bamboo? Bamboo.
That is
Bamboo.
That's great.
When I said that, I was like, that doesn't sound right, but that's what it's called, right? No, yeah. I think I was talking about koalas with somebody recently, and
that's hilarious.
But yeah, yeah, I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really know what to expect. The movie kind of strung me along for a while. It kind of made me think some weird things that I didn't really know what was going on. But overall, I do think I liked it. It wasn't at all what I was expecting, and there was one line from the movie, or from the trailers, that was not in the movie that completely changed like, okay, so my expectations of the movie were set in part because of this line from the trailer, and his dad says, son, the world awaits our discovery, or something like that. So that made it sound like to me that his dad had actually discovered something, or that they actually were gonna find life at the end or something. And so I was thinking that like his dad had found this like crazy species, and like he was gonna pass that along to his son or something like that. You know, like I thought there was gonna be some big revelation in the movie, and there wasn't really. And if that line hadn't been in the trailer, I would have never thought that. And then I would have never had that like mild disappointment that I had. Like, I mean, it wasn't really a big deal, but like if you go and rewatch the trailer and hear that, you'll be like, wait, none of that happened. Not only was that line not in the movie, but what he was alluding to was not in the movie either. And that kind of frustrated me.
I didn't see that trailer or hear that line, but it's interesting that you brought up that concept, because I would have accepted if Brad Pitt did decide to keep going. If the movie ended with, so let's say when Roy's dad says, you know, maybe I didn't find the partner that I actually needed. If the movie went to black right there, I would have accepted that being the end of the movie. Because we already saw that there was this transformation happening, and Brad Pitt kind of...
Now you're saying that's dependent upon if they had actually found something?
No. I said it's that concept of them finding something could happen if Brad Pitt stayed on and kept going. Not necessarily that.
So you're saying if they had delivered that line as well?
No.
Okay, that
the line has
matter.
nothing to do with it. Just the concept of them out in space finding things.
Gotcha.
Again, if the movie had ended with us trying to decide whether or not Brad Pitt turned around,
or like an Inception kind of ending, like we don't know.
I would have accepted that he did keep going, that his dad did convince him that there's space to explore, and they both just went nuts and kept going. I would have accepted that too, if it were to have been made clear that Brad Pitt also went crazy. That's what I mean.
You saw a little bit of the like when Alex went crazy in Ready or Not.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm so salty about that because I really wanted him to be good. But the only way I would have been okay with that is if, like I just said, if it was very obvious that he had lost his freaking mind and that they were both just crazy in space together, because that could have been kind of funny. But I didn't want a sane Brad Pitt to just be like, so like it goes back to another line from Ready or Not where they're talking about how Alex is saying like you'll do anything as your family tells you it's okay, and how he is struggling between like choosing Grace or choosing his mom, and how she's like, well, you know that I know you better, blah blah blah, and ultimately she was right, and I didn't like that. Like I didn't like the idea of like Brad Pitt or Roy's like logic and reasoning going out of the window just because this was his dad. Him not having his own like faculties outside of that, because I just feel like a lot of times in movies and in real life people can't like separate themselves from their parents and understand that their relationship with their parent has to not be the most important thing in the world at some point.
So it's easy to say that when it's not happening to you. It's easy to look at somebody like, why are you acting like that? Well, if they knew that they could act differently, they would.
No, I'm not.
No. Also, that was Roy's character, though. He was blinded by the shadow of his dad.
Yeah, and I didn't want
his
fate.
I know. Hush. It doesn't matter what you want. I'm talking. The parallel between the journeys that Roy and his father took were very similar up until the end. It wasn't that he would have decided to stay on because it was his dad. It would be because of the same reason that his dad stayed on. He traveled from Earth to Neptune. It's a long time. And for 79 days, he was in space by himself. And all he had to listen to was his dad's recording and that one message from his wife. And in the narration, you could hear him and his morale deteriorating. He kept saying, I'm alone. He kept saying, I failed everybody that I've been in a relationship with. He keeps reiterating that he only lives for the mission. So what I saw in that time frame was him losing some of his humanity and becoming like his father. Not because it's his father, but because that's what that journey will do to you. Now, he also says, and this is a trope in a lot of movies, that the son often suffers the sins of the father. So it's because his father is the way he is that he was destined to become that way. But he didn't choose to because of his father. That's just how the events in his life caused by his father put his life on that track. He didn't jump onto that track. That's just how it went. So I guess the difference for me is he's not choosing to be like his father. He is becoming like his father because he is doing the same things that his father did.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that I'm glad that the movie didn't decide to go that direction, and I'm glad that they decided to say, hey, we don't have to be doomed to our parents' fates, and we don't have to suffer the sins of our fathers. I'm glad that that was what the movie ended up actually being, as opposed to him falling down that trap, is all I meant.
Again, he literally let go of his problems. I don't think I'm going to get over that. He literally let go.
He literally unclipped it and he went full Elsa.
Yeah.
You don't even know what that means.
I do know what that means. I hate that I know what
We're
that
watching
means.
Frozen soon, by the way.
I've already seen it.
No, you haven't. That's a lie.
I saw like 20 minutes of it.
That doesn't count. You can't give a full rating on that. Okay, so now speaking of ratings, the Moon Pirates, they did it for me, but at the same time they lied to me, so that's another point off. No, I'm just kidding. I think what I'll say honestly though is I really had a good time. I was really invested the whole time, but I didn't really feel the payoff from my investment. The acting was really good. It was visually spectacular, and it was fun. Like, it was a fun movie to watch. And it was a space movie, and it's hard to get a space movie right. So I think overall I'll say like 7.5.
Okay.
Solid. Okay. Yours is way higher, I know.
Not way higher. Once I understood that it wasn't going to be the action movie that I thought it was going to be, and once I realized the psychological aspect of it and the message that it was trying to deliver, and it ultimately did for the most part. Even if I set aside all of the what I thought were kind of random characters, random events, the movie kind of leads you away from it because it's just trying to put into place the ultimate message at the end. I can let those things go. Overall, I thought it was good for all the reasons that you just mentioned, and I mentioned some of them at the beginning of the review. I'd give it an 8. I think I said that it felt longer than 2 hours, but I wish that it was longer than 2 hours and not felt as long, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The meat was actually there without
right,
the feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if they could have gone deeper into the Mars location.
Yeah.
That Mars location was really interesting to me. And I don't know if you caught it, but obviously things are red. But the people were fiery too. Did you notice that? They had attitudes.
Yeah, that's
They were
true.
spicy.
That's so funny.
and there was graffiti on the walls. There was just a different personality because they had been living on Mars. I don't know if that was intentional or if I'm just reading too much into that, but I thought that was really cool little nuance they threw in there. But yeah, I'd say I'm gonna have to give it a diving score.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I'd say like 8.6, 8.7.
Wow.
It's pretty good. This is a pretty good movie.
Okay, that spiked the number up quite a bit. What did I say, 7.5?
Yeah.
Math. So let's say, I'm pretty sure that's like an 8.2 or 8.1 or something like that. That's crazy. Okay, so Ad Astra, which Mark learned means to the stars.
Here's what's funny about that. It says there's a text scroll, and in one of the sentences is "Look to the stars," and then the title of the movie appears above that phrase, and you decide to lean over and say, "Do you get it?" Ad Astra means to the stars. I'm like, yeah, the screen is telling me that.
I didn't know if you knew. Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't want that in there. We have to take that out. Okay, so our score is an 8.2. That was Ad Astra. Pretty good movie overall. We both seem to really like it. And we will see you next week for Abominable.